Welcome to Taking Over. Again, I'm joining Astrid one more time. We couldn't do it once. The dynamic duo's got to be back for two.
At least.
Unfortunately, this episode of NXT wasn't nearly as entertaining as last week's. I struggled through this week's episode of NXT. What about you, Astrid?
Yeah, I enjoy the matches, but the pacing of it was not it for me. That's the only part that I was could have been better. Unfortunately, I was not even like some of the matches had like a picture in picture, which doesn't help me watch it either way. So that part really was inconvenient on my end.
Yeah, it just everything felt thrown together. Nothing felt cohesive. It was like we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this and we're doing this, and it's like you know what it is? It felt very Attitude Era. A ton of things happened, but nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, the biggest thing to happen on this show was Shawn Michaels announcing 4 of the 5 competitors for each of the matches
Yeah.
and the roundtable discussions. And
Yeah.
this is included on a show where Toxic Attraction took on Nikita Lyons and Casey Squared. And the most entertaining thing on the show was old people talking about current wrestlers.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I don't have a lot of good things to say about this show, but I'll try to find a few as we go through. But again, I am Ed Fries, and I am joined once again by my tag team
Dang
partner,
it.
Asher. Put the mirror thing on. It'll make it so much easier for you.
I know.
But anyways, we're going to go ahead and start the show the same way the show started. Roxanne Perez comes out as Vic barely gets out what's going on tonight, and boom, Roxanne's music hits, and she comes out. I'm like, oh, Roxanne's in a match tonight. Totally forgot she was facing Indy Hartwell. Totally forgot. I don't know if NXT didn't put out their normal announcements this week about what's going on in the show, because I didn't see any of it on social media today when I kept scrolling. And normally I see it about 60 times. Nothing. This was a fun match. This is probably the best match of the night for me. Maybe?
Yeah.
Probably?
Ooh, better than the main event for you?
Oh, yes. Better than the main event for me.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Is this really Ed that I'm here with? Are you sure?
We'll
I
get to
need to
why the
check
main
on
event
you.
doesn't. We'll get to why the main event doesn't feel right later on. We'll
Yeah.
get to that. But no, Roxanne and Indy Hartwell had a really good, fun match. I felt like they were lacking chemistry. Roxanne hasn't lacked chemistry with a lot of people since coming in. It felt like tonight was the first night they really felt like that something was lacking between the two of them. What about you? You're obviously hosting Ladies Wrestling Showcase with Mel. You're a resident expert in women's wrestling. What do you think about this match?
It's like I don't know if it was the chemistry, like you said, but there was something I want to say definitely off about it. I don't know if it was the pacing of it, the part that we did it didn't pick up a lot of speed because it was a lot of hard hitting because of Indy being involved. But don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the match. It was well done. I feel like it showcased a lot of Indy, which was really well done. And it's something that she needed as well in the way that she's been going lately. So it made sense the way it was happening. But I don't know if it was the fact that Roxanne barely got any type of moves in, and Indy would do something to her that would take her down, and she took her down for most of the match. So it didn't pick up the pace. It was kind of slow in that way. So I don't know if that was what happened, at least from my end. But it's something did feel off about it. I can't even explain it, to be honest, the way it felt, but it wasn't what I hoped an Indy Roxanne match would be for me. But don't get me wrong, I love having the match itself and the way it happened, and it showcased Indy such a powerhouse, especially with somebody like Roxanne who was a lot smaller than her, which is what I love seeing from the match, the way it was showcased. I love having Roxanne win as well, so I figured this would be something that will be brought up later during the discussions with the legends regarding the Iron Survivor Challenge and the people that will be part of it, and especially with Indy and the way she's been winning lately. So I figured both of these would factor into the discussions later, but overall, I something did feel off about the match though.
One of the things that, and again, more surprises from Ed tonight. One of the best things in this match was Booker T. Booker T
Are you,
was
are you
really.
okay?
I don't know what's wrong with me today. Booker T really added an element to this match, having apparently trained. Ed was unaware of this, but having had Indy has gone to Reality of Wrestling to do some training. I mean, obviously she didn't start there like
Mhm.
Roxanne seemingly had, but she was definitely apparently a student of Booker T's at one point or another. And Roxanne obviously being probably one of Big Booker T's two biggest, you know, explosions from the world of Reality of Wrestling, which by the way is a fine wrestling product if you get a chance to watch it. It's really
Mhm.
fun, it's really interesting. You know, Astrid's interviewed Gigi Ray, who is fantastic talent, who's worked Reality of Wrestling. This was a great little match. There was a moment where I don't know if it was supposed to look as brutal as it was, but Indy like goes to her knees to take a kick from Roxanne, and it looks like she takes the point of Roxanne's boot right in the middle of her forehead. It was great, but no, it was a fun match. I liked the fact that when Roxanne was too small to hit the pop rocks because Indy didn't get down enough, she just
Yeah.
beats Indy down to get the position for pop rocks, which is it's what you should do in a wrestling match when you're trying to be the smaller competitor and beat up competitor and put them in that kind of a move. We
Mhm.
of course have our friend from In the Hot Seat podcast joining us today, so thank you for stopping by. But yeah, nothing great here, nothing terrible. The one thing I will say is they continue to bring up that the people talking about the Iron Survivor, Shawn Michaels and his Hall of Fame contingent, would be watching on. It was brutally clear from the difference in conversation from the Iron Survivor talk to all of the wrestling things. The Iron Survivor talk was probably recorded a week and a half ago
Mhm.
because nothing recent has been up with the except I think the most recent thing brought up was literally Isla Dawn and Alba Fire. I don't think anything
Mhm.
else recent was brought up because they contradicted themselves not once but twice with competitors who aren't cleared when talking about
Mhm.
Axiom not being cleared, and then Axiom wrestles on the show. And then Tony
Mhm.
D'Angelo, well, he's not cleared. Nope, Tony's ready and cleared, and he'll be in action next
Next
week.
week. Yeah.
I'm like, so what was the point of like really?
Mhm.
Like I don't get
Yeah.
it. Yes, Star NXT crew is back for 2 rides only. I don't know. We'll see. It might
With an
become a Tuesday
asterisk at
tradition.
the top.
Yeah, it's as one night only as a once in a lifetime between The Rock and John Cena. Anyways, we get a backstage segment where Andre Chase is confronted by Duke Hudson and Tia Hale, and Duke talks about how he couldn't stop his foot from going ahead and hitting Andre Chase last week, and he apologizes again. And Andre's like, it's fine, things happen.
Mhm.
And Duke says he's got a petition signed by all the students at Chase U that he's going to present to the Hall of Fame committee for the Iron Survivor, which was never brought up by the committee for the Iron Survivor. So again, more point to the story of we're bringing in all this story about the chats about the Iron Survivor and not having any of the old timers talk about it. Dara, to be honest, in my mind, but go ahead and watch the show and then find out what you missed after anything back. Did you pick up anything special out of this segment, or was it just? I mean, and it was interrupted by Grayson Waller, who tells
Mhm.
Andre Chase that he can't trust Duke Hudson. I mean, paint by numbers.
Yeah.
Uh, yep.
No,
Okay.
I was gonna say
Sorry,
because I'm like it's
wasn't
like
sure if you had a thought.
no, the only thing I thought about during this like the heel telling him he's like he's a heel too, he's a bad guy, and just really, I guess, and there's nothing else he could do. But yeah, other than that, that was nothing like out of the ordinary for this one.
I think the biggest thing that plays into later on in the show, and it's one of the few through lines that sticks throughout the show, is remember the line stop myself from kicking you in the face because that'll come up again later. We then had Dijak destroy Dante Chen. Remember when NXT wanted us to know who Dante Chen was and how important he was and how great it was that he's coming back from his knee surgery and that he's doing it for his dad. Remember all those wonderful stories that they were telling us when Dante Chen
No,
came back? Yeah, no,
no.
neither does NXT because this guy's right back down to being enhancement talent.
I know. I
I mean,
felt really bad seeing that. That was when I was waiting for the entrance, and after I saw him in the ring, I said, "Oh, Dante, I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry this happened to you." Yeah.
yeah. Dijak looked great here. I like that it's not Dijakovic or all the funny things that they were trying to make him before. It's not T-Bar. I'm not totally sold on the hard justice Terminator thing yet,
Yeah.
but it's fine. At least he's wrestling. At least he's
Mhm.
wrestling like Dijak from Ring of Honor. At least he's wrestling like he was before he got called up and was part of Retribution. So I'll give it time because it deserves time because he's fantastic. We got a couple of friends pop it in there. Amazing says Pop Petron remembers Dante Chen. Yeah, I mean no, NXT remembers Dante Chen. They just don't remember that they wanted to push him.
Yeah.
And Carl joining us on the Turnbuckle Studios account. So hello, Carl. I hope you had a wonderful episode today where you and Mel Ball Collins, Astrid's co-host on Ladies Wrestling Showcase, we're talking all kinds of different wonderful things. So go back and watch Turnbuckle Talk after you get done with this. It'll be on Turnbuckle Studios and probably on the All Day Podcast Network. So now we get to me and Astrid's first real dilemma of the show. Dijak decides to cut a promo after his match. My summary of the promo: taglines galore, okay post-match promo. Ashton, on the other hand, thought it was good. So, Ashton, why don't
I
you
mean,
talk to us about?
I liked it. I didn't say it was good. I liked it. There's a difference. I'm just clarifying that beforehand.
So, tell us what you thought about Mr. Hard Justice Dijak in this promo.
It just
Hello, Bobby.
more than anything, what got my attention is the people that he mentioned because he went from mentioning Apollo and then he mentioned Braun. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think he mentioned Wesley. Like he mentioned, he went for like from the
Carmelo.
North American to like the big names like that. So I was like, that's interesting that he mentioned a little bit of both. So I wonder where he stands in the division because of that part. So that's what caught my interest more than anything in the promo. So that's why I say I liked it because I'm like, I see his targets, so that's interesting. We'll see how which target goes after Wesley. So that caught my eye for sure.
It just seemed like every 3 words out of this promo was some kind of like keyword or tagline or hashtag word that he wants to use. Like it didn't run like a wrestling promo, which when we get off of this, we go to, as I have it written in my notes, JD Douchebag backstage with Ivy Nile. We have JD McDonough backstage in the Diamond Mine Dojo talking to Ivy Nile. And this was a really good promo because you have a heel talking to a babyface, trying to make the babyfaces understand that it's okay to cheat sometimes. And I thought it was
Yep.
really interesting work by JD McDonough here to be like, look, with guys like Senga and guys like Veer, their bodies are different than yours. Like they're massive. Like it's going to require. Did he say it was 2 to 3 times the amount of pressure to crush their skulls? I believe was the words he
Yeah, I
used.
think something like that because I like how he like I even noted it. He said there's no such thing as a fair fight with both of them. And he said I'm talking more about science more than anything, and that's why he kept talking about little facts like that. I'm like, I see you, but at the same time, I thought it was interesting that he had to promote another one, Ivy and Tatum in the background. Who I don't think she said anything really in this part, but I thought it was interesting that it was the guy and the girl being together like this because usually, obviously, we have the guy, or the girl and the girl. So I feel like it's rare to have that conversation. So I like how it started in that way, though.
Yeah, and then the Creeds come in and they're continuing talking about how it's that their wrestling style is going to get them over, and they're going to be able to beat them just by being the good old boys that they are. And I'm like, and JD's like, no, you're not. You guys need to take, these guys are too big, they're too strong. You need to be able to take the easy way out. It was fun. It was good. Again, it was a promo. It was a conversation back and forth, not just spouting catchphrases and taglines and things that you need to get over to get your character over. Hello, my crispy. Hi, I'm actually doing well. That was a rough night of NXT here that we're covering, but good to see you and hope that you stick around. We then get the Iron Survivor, the first of two Iron Survivor chats from Triple H, Sean Waltman, 123 Kid, the Road Dogg, Jesse James, Brian James. We get Alundra Blaze and Molly Holly.
It was HBK.
This was really fun. Yeah, I said that in the beginning, didn't I?
You said Triple H. I don't know why.
Did I say Triple H? They brought him up at one point, but no. We'll
they
get back
did,
to Triple H. I like this. They just started bringing up names and started saying things that came to mind. I don't remember all the jokes because I didn't write them down. I do remember that the names who were listed was Carmelo Hayes, Tony D'Angelo, JD McDonough, Joe Gacy, Von Wagner. You can audibly hear the crowd booing the mention of Von Wagner in this match. Axiom and Grayson Waller. There was a line about, I believe it was during Carmelo Hayes, where they were talking about him being a heat magnet, and Alundra Blaze makes the joke that, Waltman must know all about that.
Yeah.
I liked
that
how
part
it was
really got me.
I like how it was kind of like half kayfabe, half like backstage producers talking about talent. It was really awkward and weird, but in the best possible way. Coming out of this, they do mention that Tony D'Angelo and Axiom are not cleared to wrestle. Again, two contradictions that within the next 2 hours, both are taken back. We've got the Mr. Chris Parrish joining us with his own emote, which you can find at the Chris Parrish on Twitch.
The one part I was going to mention too. Did you notice how they couldn't stop telling us about how creepy JD is too? Again.
Yep. It's entirely part of his character, which is fine, I guess. It's fine. They also said speaking of creepy, there's Joe Gacy. So we get Joe Gacy in there along with the creepy vibes. We then get Duke versus Grayson. And in my notes, every time I tried to type Duke versus Grayson, it kept coming up as Dick Grayson because I apparently write too much Batman stuff. So I don't know why, but it did. This was a fun back and forth match. Lots of back and forth. Nobody was really getting the upper hand until Duke has a pinfall and he tries to reach for the ropes. And Andre Chase yells at him and tells him you shouldn't do that. Grayson Waller then gets the upper hand, and Grayson Waller's on the outside of the ring. And Tia Hale gets in his face. And Duke lines up the big boot. And he stops himself. And he looks at her and he goes, "See, I can stop it anytime I want." And the look of pure fear, anger, and hatred on Andre Chase's face when he says that. And he's like, "Then what happened last week?" Oh, it was so good. Andre Chase is really, really doing well. Getting this whole Duke Hudson thing over. Do you think Andre is turning heel on Duke Hudson?
I think that'll be interesting though if it did happen. You never know.
Like Andres is, obviously rightfully upset that Duke could stop himself this week, but couldn't last week in the match for the tag team titles. But I just thought it was interesting that he makes sure that was a line that was audible on the camera. You hear it from Andre Chase. Then why? Obviously, this leads to Grayson Waller getting the win, and he's standing on top of the thing by the Chase U student section, putting up the U and being Grayson Waller, and he's just delightful. He really is just delightful. But in the hot seat brings up an interesting question, which we're going to tackle later, but we can go ahead and tackle it now for the men's and we'll come back to it later for the women. So they go ahead and they announce the men's Iron Survivor Challenge match. And it's going to be Grayson Waller, Carmelo Hayes, Joe Gacy, and JD McDonough. There's a distinct lack of baby faces in this match. Unless you classify Carmelo Hayes as a babyface, it's 4 heels. I think it works solely because of the fact that you have either Braun Breaker or Apollo Crews coming out of the championship match, both of which are baby faces. So you'd want a heel heavy match to have a heel win. We also find out that it's going to be Von Wagner versus Andre Chase versus Axiom next week to get the final spot. Who do you think is getting that final spot in the men's match?
I'm hoping for Axiom. That's my person there. I don't like Vaughn in there. Clearly the crowd doesn't either, so we just take him out right there at the start. And I feel like maybe Duke will probably cost Andre the spot. Who knows? So I feel like that will give it more to Axiom, if anything. But that's my number one pick, definitely Axiom.
I think Von Wagner gets in here, and I don't want him to. I don't need him in this match. But I think we're going to see, as we found out later, that dude was back again, and he had a match with Axiom tonight because Axiom is apparently cleared to wrestle. I wish somebody would have told the people running the show that Axiom was cleared to wrestle, because it would have made the discussion of Axiom so much more interesting. Like, wouldn't you have loved to have heard 3 minutes of Sean Waltman talking about Axiom and how entertaining he is, and how the two of them are really, really similar if you really look at it, other than the fact that Sean Waltman's a dickhead and Axiom seems less like a dickhead. But no, yeah, I think Axiom's obviously the choice if you're going to have a baby face in there. But like I said, I think it's going to be 5 heels. I don't think you need a baby face. I think Mello comes out of this match winning anyways, because JD's had 3 cracks at Braun Breaker.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Gacy's had 2.
Yeah.
Grayson Waller doesn't need it yet. I don't think he's ready for it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So unless Apollo Crews wins and then Grayson Waller makes a lot more sense. Von Wagner just had a crack at it. And then you have Carmelo Hayes, the guy who hasn't had a crack at it.
Plus, if you think about it this way, it would be he's already like out of everybody there. I feel like Carmelo's above everybody else. So when you think about it, with everything he's done recently, and I feel like the victory in this type of match will, put him even higher than everybody else too. So it will make sense. Plus, like I said, if he, like I said before, if I was happy he would lose that North American title if he was involved in this match and wins it. So if he wins it, I'm a happy camper. So please.
Yeah. I mean, you know how much of a fan of Carmelo Hayes I am. I've been a fan since the day they put him on the television. I've been a big fan. Going back to that dude, Big Body Javi is back on our TV screens, and Mackenzie Mitchell seemed less entertained with Big Body Javi than I was, and that's saying something considering I don't understand anything about this dude. He's trying to sell me a baseball bat. He's trying to sell me a pillow. I mean, if you're going to sell me a pillow, at least have Astrid sell it. Like Wendy Chu should be selling pillows. Like, why do I want a picture of a pillow? Like, doesn't it make more sense? He also says that he's been sleeping for 5 years. So what did he do
That
for the
explains
rest
a
of his
lot.
life?
Yeah.
Anyways, Axiom comes back and is the best part of this entire segment by saying that he's cleared and he's ready to have the match with Javier Bernal. I don't like Javier Bernal. I don't know if you can tell. I don't
Oh,
I don't
really?
find him funny. I don't find him charming. I don't find him entertaining. I find him annoying and I don't want him on my TV screen. Like, there's a different, like, I find Grayson Waller incredibly annoying, but I want to see him on my TV screen to boo him because at least he's entertaining.
Yeah.
But Javier Bernal is just bland and nothing. It's like they already have guys like Javier Bernal. It's called Carmelo Hayes and Grayson Waller. You already have two really good versions of this dude. You don't need a third.
It just, I see from my end, I see as somebody like he's Hispanic and there's representation there, so I'm always like hoping he does better. And I don't know if this is their way of like kind of building his personality on screen, but I feel like it's not working out in the sense of like, okay, why are you selling me this? And, I get it. You're just trying to get him to talk a little bit more, and you're trying to, get him warming up on that. But I feel like this is not the way to do it. It really isn't because I feel like it's not funny for me. It's not entertaining. It just I wish I could see his real personality shining through this, and I don't. And just I'm struggling through it right now because I want to cheer for him and I want him to do better. But at the same time, this is not what I picture for him so far. And just like this little interview, so just like at least if you were funny, then I wouldn't mind it. But it just first he starts naming people that were injured because he just like it's because they're injured, so I can't challenge them right now. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this part. He did that twice now, and now he's selling stuff, and I'm just like, I don't understand what the gimmick is. I need some explanation. So I've been like, that's why I've been torn about him because I want to cheer for him, but I want to see something better than what is happening on screen right now. Yeah.
Yeah, representation only goes so far if what's being represented on screen isn't entertaining. If you're not going to have talented people in those spots, you're not representing anything by putting somebody out there that's failing. Speaking of something failing, we have Kenny James from accounting versus Fallon Henley. I could not, for the life of me, get into this match. Just
I want to
not.
give a funny comment about this because I was talking
Absolutely.
to Mel about Kiana, and because we call her Kiana from accounting, then she was talking, oh, then Taryn from accounting is gonna have issues if she does has to go to WWE because of copyright issues. And I told her, Mel, that's a joke between us. That's not really her name. It just she gave us Taryn vibes, so just call her, Kiana from accounting. So there you go, Mel. That's my joke for today with you involved. So yeah, it's just Kiana James. For those of you that don't know. We
Yeah,
just
I
call
mean,
her that.
I call her Kiana from accounting because she gives me those Taryn from accounting vibes. She pretends to be a business lady. She's all about numbers and business. So I push it to accounting. Like it was a joke because we were at Love Wrestling and we were partners with LPW and Taryn from accounting was the grand champ was the challenge champion at the time. So like it all made a whole lot of sense at the time. Yes, it probably doesn't make sense to anybody else who wasn't.
Yeah.
But she does nothing for me in the ring. She really doesn't. Like I don't see the great appeal in her. I think there's something about wrestling that's supposed to draw you in and make you interested and make you. And like I said, I could just be having a bad day and just was just a rough show on me as a bad day. I even asked you, I'm like, am I just being unfair to this show? And you're like, it's okay. And I'm like, okay. So I'm not completely unfair to the show.
Yeah.
But you go ahead and talk about because I've obviously missed a lot of this feud and what's going on and everything else in it. I understand there's something about Kiana trying to buy the bar from Fallon Henley, and
Mhm.
apparently Brooks Jensen must have a crush on her because Fallon saw him looking at Kiana and waving, and sent him to the back. Like I
Yeah,
don't know.
because I think they put it in the video package before him because when she went to the bar, then he was like, "Oh yeah, like I'll agree with you, Fallon, because Fallon's his friend, but he's like slobbering over Kiana when he sees her." And then last week when she hit her during the match, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, or the week before, and she fell on his lap, so he was like, "Oh my god!" And then during it, she's like, stop staring at her, kind of thing during her entrance, so she kicked him out. It's just like I one thing that I liked about Kiana, and I think it was last week, if I'm not mistaken, as well. She was working very much like a heel, like definitely showing that and showcasing that through the whole match, focusing on one particular body part. And she did it before, and she did it tonight again with Fallon, focusing on her arm through the whole match. It just, I was hoping Fallon would win this and not her. But at the same time, I kept thinking, so far, I feel like I've seen the momentum towards Kiana, and I don't see that stopping. And thinking about the Iron Survivor participants, that I thought about, the victory makes sense for in her end as well. So I feel like it's been showing, like showcasing her as a heel more than anything. with the purse and not showing us what's in the purse so far. And the purse being involved in the match and the focusing on Fallon's arm and the way she was working more than anything, I could see that being showcased, and I understand it. Um, yeah, just I wish Fallon would have won it though. I wish, but hopefully next time. Um, but yeah, just overall, I enjoyed the match and the energy they had together. It's just exactly what it needed to be and exactly the time it should have been as well.
Yeah, it had time, it had length. The one thing we can say about this show is it definitely showcased the ladies. I mean, the main event had to, happen twice because of it, but I mean, it started with a women's segment. This is right about the end of the first hour. We have our women's segment.
Mhm.
Shortly after this, we're going to have the chat about the Iron Survivor to pretty much open the second hour of the show. Our
Mhm.
main event match, after finding out who's in the Iron Survivor, is a women's six-person tag. It's more of NXT showcasing the women's wrestlers. That you can't fault them for that. They've consistently
Mhm.
shown that you can devote time to all of your matches and all of your divisions, and take these. They mentioned it during, I don't know if it was during the men's or the women's Iron Survivor chat, but I'll bring it up here either way. They mentioned about how young all these talents are and how little
Mhm.
in ring time they've had. I thought that was an
Yeah.
important discussion point that they had,
Mhm.
where they're telling us that this is developmental and they're talking to us about how these talents need this time to get seasoned and get ready to go to the main roster. Some of them apparently are already ready to go, and apparently
Mhm.
Sean is dodging Triple H's phone calls.
Yeah, I love that tidbit because it just gives you the behind the scenes of like that we know of, like off camera, but showing it on the camera, and I like having that part of it being part of the show. They mentioned it at the beginning when they first were talking about the guys, but I feel like it was highlighted more when the women were discussed as well because they said, "Oh, Zoe's ready for the main roster," and that's when Shawn mentioned like I'm kind of waiting on Triple H for that, and I'm not dodging those calls because I want her here, and then. They mentioned something kind of similar for Indy, just like, oh, she's ready. But I think it was either Molly
Fans
or
think she's
Lundra.
ready.
Yeah, and I think it was Alondra, if I'm not mistaken. She kind of said she has to believe in herself, but like I feel like she's like ready, almost there. And then that's when they mentioned Cora being young, that she's 20. So they mentioned that, and they mentioned Roxanne being 21, and Road Dogg and X Pac were just like, well, when we were 21, we were doing things that we can't even talk about on TV, even at the 24-hour last night. So just like look at how far she's gone at 21 versus what we were doing at 21, which is it's still a funny comparison to think about on and off screen because think about how dedicated she is at such a young age, which is something that they were not at the either. And also one part that I did enjoy about that too was when I think it was Alondra, she mentioned about Zoe and her attitude. She said, if I was still active, that's somebody I would like to face. And I think X
Yeah.
Pac is the one that told her she would literally kick your ass if that was happening, which I love to hear that back and forth between them too.
I know Road Dogg said that he would get his ass kicked by Zoe Stark if he got in the ring with her, and I think X Pac made the joke that
Yeah.
he would have beaten that she would have beaten Alundra.
Oh, and
I'm
the Isla
I
Dawn's
still
jokes
kind of
too
want to.
as well.
I still kind of. Oh yes, the other. We'll jump right into that. So we have the women's
Yeah.
survivor. We have the women's Iron Survivor mentioned here. There's only one segment we have to go back to. They first mentioned Roxanne as always, of course, because I think she's winning this match. I'll
Hmm.
go out on an easy limb to go on the biggest branch in all of the trees. I think Roxanne's winning this match.
Hmm.
Everybody's very high on Roxanne, no matter how old she is. As you said, they have the jokes about X Pac. At 21, I can't even talk about the things I was doing, and Road Dogg talking about we can't even talk about what you're doing. At 9 o'clock last night. They bring up Zoe. The crowd audibly boos. They bring up Indy again. Road Dogg says that the fans think she's ready, but we think that she needs a little bit
Hmm.
more time. Cora Jade, they talk about how young she is, but how she's coming into this personality,
Hmm.
um, and how as she continues to grow, she's going to become even better and better as she gets older. They bring up Fallon Henley and Kiana James from accounting, which I was surprised by. I didn't think either one of them would get a mention in this portion. Um, the crowd boos Kiana James from accounting as well.
Hmm.
And then they bring up Alba Fire, which does lead to the Road
Hmm.
Dogg joke about doesn't want to even bring up Alba Fire in this thing. Doesn't want Isla Dawn to hex him,
Yeah.
which I think is hysterical. But yeah, I liked how they had this little sit down round table. When they kept announcing people, they're like, they're going to help Shawn Michaels, announce. I'm like, what? So they're going to have like 6 people in the ring to just announce 5 names? It seems pointless.
Right? That's what I thought too, because I kept saying like, who else is gonna join this, first of all? And then I kept picturing it in the ring, literally happening, not behind the scenes. So I was thinking this is gonna be awkward and just like Roxanne, Cora Jade, Fallon, and just like I kept thinking about it that way, and I was like, I don't like this. But the way that they did and they started it, I was like, okay, this is better than what I had in mind at least. Um, I like also I forgot who mentioned it, but I like when they brought up the Alpha Fire part. They said, "Oh, I think this is not her time to join the match because she's focused on Ale Dawn and kind of getting revenge on her. And like once
Mhm.
she's done with that chapter, then I think she'll focus back on the championship, which I like that part of it, like playing with the storyline so far. But I like more discussion how it happened with the women versus the guys because they talk about so much about the stories that were currently happening, and then I feel like they talk about their talents and their growth. So I feel like the discussion was better when it came to the girls than to the guys. Versus like with the guys, oh, we got is like, oh, JD's creepy and so is Gacy, and I was like, okay, how does that have to do with him being in the match though? Which is the part that I feel like it was better with the discussion for the ladies though.
Well, I mean, it also helps with the ladies' match that we're discussing, both face and heel talents who can potentially have feuds going on, at the time, as opposed to the men's discussion where we're talking about two guys who haven't been on TV because they've been injured, one guy who's creepy, another guy who started a family of creepy people like the Adams family. Um, and then we have Carmelo Hayes and Grayson Waller. Like, there's nobody else. There's no feuds you can mention with them because they haven't really been in a feud in a while. Like Mello just got done with Wes Lee, but I don't even call that a feud because it was like the North American title stuff was with so many people at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, no, the Iron Survivor stuff was way better than I thought it was going to be because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't tell us what we were to expect. So they're going to help decide the Iron Survivors, and I'm like, aren't you just discussing a list of names? Can't Sean do like I know Sean's old and stuff. Like, he can remember. Give him a piece of paper he can read. Going back to just before the women's Iron Survivor stuff, we have Malik Blade, Idris Enofe, and Odyssey Jones backstage, with Malik Blade getting all angry that he got his dad's. It was the last vest that his dad apparently gave him before he died, and Von Wagner ripped it, and he's very angry. And Enofe tells him to use that in the match tonight. This was a nice, good little segment. It would have been more helpful had I seen the segment before
Mm-hmm.
last week's segment so that I understood what
Yep.
was going on. But at least now it's all telling a linear story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the match helped the story, but it's nice that they're telling a story with Blade and Inoue.
Yeah.
We then had the first attempt at the main event match, which was KC Squared coming out, doing their little dance party in the crowd. And then we had Nikita Lyons come out, but as she's making her entrance, she's attacked by Zoe Stark, who chop blocks her and just attacks her leg. Uh, KC Squared finally runs down to go ahead and try to make the save, but it's too little too late. And as they carry Nikita Lyons backstage, you have Toxic Attraction there, just making jokes and laughing. It's good because they gave us the match. Like I thought it was gonna be. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a bait and switch, and I don't really like that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, they give us the match anyways. Like
Yeah.
Nikita still comes out and competes in the match, so it makes sense, and it gives Nikita a reason to lose without really losing a whole hell of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was fine. Going back to the Iron Survivor chat for the women because I just saw this because I it took me till after the match to realize that this happened. They didn't bring up Nikita at all during the Iron Survivor chat. Hashtag cancel the Iron Survivor because how can you have that great match without Nikita Lyons in it? Like no Nikita, no Mandy Rose. Like the women's Iron Survivor means nothing to me anymore. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I mean, we knew for sure Brandy was not going to be part of it,
Well, yes,
but
as the
to
champion,
see
she wasn't.
somebody, yeah, but to see somebody like Nikita who's been showcased so much since her debut and not see her part of it, that was very shocking. Like not even a mention. At least Fallon got mentioned, and Kiana got mentioned, who haven't been as big as Nikita when it comes to her push. So I'm like, you could have at least said Nikita and just discuss a little bit about it, but there was no mention of her whatsoever, which I thought was super interesting. I don't know if you missed it though, but there was also like Cora doing a TikTok and mocking Wendy because of the ending of the match last week too.
Yeah, I don't care about the tickety tockety crap. I'm too old for that stuff. Um, we then have people are going to be mad at me for this one, especially Astrid. I have Feather Girl promo from Lyra Valkyrie because the Feather Girl, because I couldn't pay attention to anything she was saying because all I was doing was staring at the feather stuff because that's all they put in the shots. Every shot was the feather crap. So literally, she's the Feather Girl. Like
I don't remember if I sent it
I
to you,
think
but I
she's
saw that. I think it
she's from
was last
NXT
week.
UK.
Somebody mentioned, yeah, but somebody mentioned there was a feather that in the like in a picture by the commentary table, and I don't remember if I sent it to you, but I think I sent it to Paris for sure. But I saw that and
I
I
sent
thought,
it
oh,
to
that's
you.
interesting because I didn't watch her in NXT UK, so I saw that and I was like, oh, that's interesting because based on her real name, I figured that was the name that was happening because of the copyrights that we had recently, which was the Lyra Valkyrie, no, Valkyrie, I think is if I'm not mistaken. So I saw the name and I thought about her because of that reference, and then now when I see the promo, I was like, yep, I knew it when I saw that. No, this is one that I hadn't seen before, like when I was watching NXT UK for my reviews. So I definitely have to go back and watch it. But I was watching a promo from her from I think about a year ago on the YouTube channel just to get some background on her, and pretty interesting. So I'm really excited to see what she does here.
Barry Monkey 99 jumping in saying that she was molting, which is very possible. Like I said, I would have loved to tell you more about her, but the promo wasn't the most entertaining. It didn't. See, here's the difference between two ways to introduce a new character. Isla Dawn last week was creative,
Hmm.
it made sense, and it told us everything we need to know. You want to know what to know about the Feather Girl? The Feather Girl and her name. I don't know why she's coming. I don't know where she's coming from. She mentioned that she's coming from her homeland, but didn't say where it was. It was a woods next to a beach. I don't know. Also, I think that they're going to use the Valkyria, Korea, or however she pronounced it. You had Taya Valkyrie, and you didn't want to use that name, but yet you
I
use it
thought
like
about that too. Hmm.
I'm not saying that the people who were mad about Taya Valkyrie not being able to keep her name are wrong now, but really, WWE,
But
this is what we
it's
start to do. I'm
like we
sorry.
don't do Valkyrie, we do
We then
Valkyria. Close enough.
we then get an Elektra Lopez promo talking about Indy Hartwell and stuff, and she was asked questions and she answered questions, but I didn't remember any of it 5 seconds after the promo was over. And you know how much I
Yeah.
enjoy La Madrina. You know how much I
Yeah.
enjoyed her. You know how I enjoy. Couldn't care less about the. It it felt like she didn't care enough about the promo to make me give a damn. Like, oh, was it? Were you happy to see? Were you happy to see Indy lose? Yeah, sure, whatever. Like, literally, she was brushing it off like she didn't care about doing the interview. If she's not going to give a damn, why the hell should I? At least Big Body
I
Javi
did.
tries to make me care. I don't, but at least he tries.
I just feel like it's just that I feel like they're trying to showcase that her attitude has changed because now that she's focusing on herself in the way she targeted Indy. But they just talked about why she attacked her. She said, "Well, the crowd loves her. Like, just I just wanted to attack her, and I thought it would be like kind of in a way like easy for me to attack her." Um, but I just like the way that she's showing like she's confident enough that she knows she can do better than Indy, which I like the way she delivered it with that I don't care attitude because I don't care about Indy as well. And it goes back to like the TikTok that she filmed of like Roxanne and Indy just fighting at the live event when she's just laughing about Indy. So I thought that kind of went hand in hand as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we
Hmm.
have Javier Bernal versus Axiom. Sorry. I think I lost connection there for a minute. We have Javier versus Axiom. I missed most of this match because this was the opportunity that I took to deal with some things. But Astrid, I'm sure you watched it because, as you know, we talk about representation. You have two Latin I guess I'll use Hispanic Latin. I don't know which phrase you want to use because I mean, a
Hispanic.
kid's from Spain, so
Yeah.
but is he Hispanic if he's from Spain? I don't know how that all works, so I'll let it go. You can talk about it, and I'll just sit back and enjoy.
I mean, I feel like it was more of a way to show off Axiom to me, and it just that way of like going back to connecting it to the Iron Survivor. So that's why I figured he would be one of the people involved, at least in the discussion. So I think it just went back to that, was just a good showcase for him, and just showcasing that even with the injury, he did very well in the match. Um, like I said, I just with Javier, I'm still like kind of getting the vibes from him. I don't know what his character is, so I feel like I don't have a connection yet with him the way I hope. So that's why I enjoy Axiom a lot more in this match than Javier. So that's all I can say.
Remember the days where you hated Axiom because they put a mask on a kid?
Still mad about that. Don't
And
remind
yeah,
me.
and Barry Monkey brings this up because I had said it to Astrid in our
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Mighty Morphin Power Axiom is always good. I mean, he is. Axiom is fantastic. I loved him as a kid. I think his mask is so interesting and I'm assuming incredibly hard to work in, but interesting and different that I really enjoy it. But yeah, he seemed to have the Green Ranger vibe this week. I mean, it's not the Green Ranger outfit that the New Day used in the Portland house show that I had seen, where the New Day had both the red and white Ranger gear on for Jason David Frank, whom we lost last week.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a fun match. There's I don't think there's a bad Axiom match because the guy is so super talented. It's hard for him to have a bad match. So
Yeah.
young as well. We then go, speaking of young people versus veterans, we have Apollo Crews still at the diner. Man, this guy really needs to find someplace else to eat. Like, obviously, that's how Braun Breaker found him. I mean, he sits at the same diner every week.
Yeah.
But he's writing in his journal and he has his, plate of eggs and he has his side of toast and he's going ahead and writing a journal about how he's going to win the championship. And Braun Breaker sits down and they have a conversation. Again, it was good. I really enjoy the conversational promos back and
Mm-hmm.
forth. Two baby faces being like, "You're good, but I'm gonna beat you." It didn't
Yeah.
resort to name calling. It didn't resort to "you suck and I'm great" and all that. No, it's "you're good, but guess what? You make me be better." Braun Breaker
Mm-hmm.
talking about knowing that Apollo Crews is coming for my championship. That has me in the gym at 6:15 in the morning as opposed to 7. And Apollo's like, yeah, knowing that you're in the gym earlier means that I get in there earlier and I stay later to make sure that I can be the one to take you down because I'm the only one who can do it. Yeah, it bad mouths at least the rest of the division, but at least he's putting over his opponent, the guy he's wrestling. So if you beat him, it means something. But no, I really enjoyed this. What do you think? I know that I don't think you were sold last week when we talked about Apollo versus Braun.
No, I like the conversations like that because, like you said, they're not really insulting each other, but at the same time, it's like, you're good, but I'm better than you, and I'm going to prove it to you during this match. And I love how they're using like real life scenarios between themselves to do this. I like the point where Braun's about to leave, and he just looks at the notes from Apollo, just like, kind of like, what are you writing there, huh? And it's like kind of situation, and he just looks at him, he's like, I'm not done with it. And just like I haven't written the ending yet for the match, and then he's like giving him that look of like I wonder how it goes, but then he leaves anyway. He's like, it's okay, just in your meal. But like having those conversational kind of promos, it just feels so no, I guess pun intended, natural, and just organic between them, and I love seeing that. You don't see it often. Plus, one thing that I loved about NXT, especially recently, is that they have used places outside of the arena, outside of the setup from the Full Sail area. So it's always nice to see like them in a real life situation, having just a regular conversation in a way.
Yeah. Braun Breaker goes in and he goes ahead and orders a coffee and he sits down with his coffee. I don't know if there's some joke about him handing him the sweet and low as like when he hands him the sugar, he hands him sweet and low. I don't know if that's supposed to be some kind of jab at Braun Breaker. I don't because like
Mhm.
he handed him the sugar and laughed. Like I don't get why that was funny, Apollo, but whatever. Maybe it's an inside joke backstage. One of my favorite lines was Braun Breaker saying, "Oh, you've had a vision of you being the champion, right?" He goes, "Yeah, I have, and it's going to come true at deadline." And he's like, "Have any of your visions ever not come true?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, Well, that's sad because that means that you saw yourself losing the championship. You saw yourself, having Commander Aziz. You saw all these terrible things were going to happen to you. More importantly, he then says, no, none of them have ever not come true. He's like, well, first time for everything. That was really good. But speaking of coffee and getting an energy boost, you can go ahead and go to rogueenergy.com and use the promo code OLE pods to get 10% off your order. Yes, go ahead and scan the QR code right underneath Astrid that she was just pointing to a minute ago. Or you can just go to rogueenergy.com and use the promo code OLE pods to get 10% off your order today. I'm sure they got all kinds of deals going on for the holidays. It's Cyber Monday yesterday. So I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff going on. So definitely go and check that out. We come back from commercial break and we get Julius Creed versus JD McDonough. And while I could talk about this match for a while, there's somebody who could really enjoy this match. I'm just going to go ahead and sit back. I'm going to give her the big screen and let Astrid talk about
No.
Julius Creed versus JD McDonough.
Oh, jeez. Why me? Why are you doing this? No. Okay.
I'm not.
I don't need the big screen.
I didn't. I took it away. Why did you put it back?
I don't need it.
There you go.
I was
I
just
know.
staring at Julius. I don't have any other details than that. No, I love the part where he was just holding JD on air before he did. I think it's Power Slam. I'm terrible with names. Okay, I think that part more than anything was really impressive. And I think even Booker and Vic were like, "What in the world we just see?" And the guy's so strong and his balance is like amazing. And then we had Indushier just watching him in the match, and then Brutus was in his corner. I don't think I saw Ivy at least in this end. But we had a part towards the end that JD has a chair and he's about to hit it. Julius who's just kind of like resting on the post outside, and just when he hits him, I think it was Senga, if I'm not mistaken. He comes in, pushes him, so it hits Senga instead. And then JD's kind of, I guess, shocked that it came from Julius to Senga and the change. And then they just cost a DQ, and Julius wins the match. And so Brutus is holding Julius, keeping him in place, and then Saga in VOA saying something to the Creed. I didn't get to hear it though. To the Creed
He
brothers
said,
about.
we want you at 100% and no less.
Okay, that's what I thought. But I had it back and forth with the stream, so I couldn't listen to it the way I hoped. But yeah, that was pretty much it for the match.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good match. It was a back and forth thing. Julius JD McDonough is so talented. Like, I know I call him all sorts of funny names: JD McDickhead, JD Douchebag, all the funny stuff. He's super talented in the ring. Trained by Finn Balor. He's the Irish Ace. He's gone. If you've not seen his stuff in some of the European promotions, check out his match against Walter from OTT. It's probably one of the greatest matches of that year. Dude is ultra talented, and he has an amazing match here with Julius. Julius, who I think is the more entertaining and better in-ring competitor of the two Creed brothers. But yeah, the match was really good. I like the finish. I do like how Senga acted like it was a mosquito bite. He's like, "You hit me with the chair." Yeah, the disqualification is because Senga pushes Julius Creed down, and the referee sees it, so the referee disqualifies him. I love how Senga just sort of looks at JD McDonough and he's super scared. The super scary, creepy bad guy is super scared by the two big dudes. I think that was hysterical. He knows better. Discretion's the better part of valor, and he gets away and runs away. And like you said, Senga just goes back and forth. Veer comes over and he just says, "We want you at 100% and no less." They don't want to take the easy way out. I think this is a match for Deadline. I think it'll be a good match. I think Indushier wins this one. I'm going to say relatively easily. I don't think this match goes long. I think this is a match that puts Diamond Mine back in their place for a little bit here. I think it would be helpful, especially with the promo earlier with JD McDonough trying to teach them that they need to not try to teach them. He's trying to talk to Ivy to get her to tell them, because he knows they won't listen to him. I think it was an interesting take on the style of where they want this match to go. In my mind, the next step in the story would be to have Indushier absolutely destroy the Creeds. Like,
Mhm.
little to no offense from the Creeds. Have this be an absolute squash match to put the Creeds on the back foot and make them the baby faces who are in peril, who need to figure out what to do to handle these big dudes.
Mhm.
Every now and then, a talented wrestler being squashed has a purpose.
Mhm.
And I think that if there's nothing else that we've learned from this NXT crew, and we're now seeing it on the main, they can tell stories within matches more than just having a match. And
Mhm.
so, yes, while it wouldn't be great for the deadline show to have a we have your former tag team champions absolutely squashed. I think if it's to prove a point to them and prove a lesson, I like how Indus is willing to just stand there and watch things happen.
Mhm.
That was more interesting than anything else. They're not doing anything bad. They're not being evil. They're just big bad dudes who are going to hurt people.
Yeah, I was
We
also
then get the
wondering when
Alba Fire point.
from yours. Sorry, just slow down for me. But I was thinking
No
about
worries.
like what you mentioned about the story, and like maybe they kind of sit back and kind of have to analyze how they can beat in this year. And I wonder if maybe this is how Roddy comes back to kind of get them that wisdom they need to be able to beat them. Because, like I said, we haven't seen him in it feels like ages now, since the hospital scene. That's the last time we saw him, and it feels like so long ago at this point. And we haven't heard anything about his status, so I wonder what's happening there. Um, or do we get anything from Damien Kemp? Because he's been off TV since Julius beat him as well. So I wonder if he factors in any of this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I I wouldn't mind having. So if I we'll go fantasy booking here for me for a little bit, and let's see what you think of this. The Creeds get squashed in 3 minutes at deadline, just absolutely wrecked. Julius starts the match, runs it into share, just gets slammed around and thrown around. They throw him into the corner. He tags Brutus. Same thing. Tossed around, thrown around. These guys are big enough they can throw Brutus around with ease and make it look good. And then go ahead and have them hit some kind of big devastating move on the two of them at once, so that it gives you a reason why both the Creeds would be down and out right away. And then have the Creeds in the ring going, "What the hell just happened?" And Ivy just staring at them like, "Nobody's done this to us before." And
Yeah.
have Ivy go to JD McDonough and be like, "All right, maybe we need to listen to this guy." And then you have an argument between, like Julius and Ivy, where Ivy's like, "Come on, we need to listen to him. He might have some kind of an insight. Like, I know you don't like him and you don't like his tactics, but we might need something because look, what we do didn't work."
Hmm.
And that can tell a story for 2 or 3 weeks where you have the Creeds not sure of themselves, and you have Brutus on the side of Ivy Nile being like, "Yeah, maybe we need to change up our things and do a little bit of dirty work." And having Julius be like, "No, no, we can't. I'm the babyface. I can't do no wrong. I'm the hero." But like something like that, like I think you can build to something fun and interesting with that. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not saying it has to go that way. That's how it plays off in my head. These guys could have a 10-minute banger that looks great, and you just have four big dudes just out there throwing each other around and having a good fun wrestling match. And maybe it
Hmm.
takes 10 minutes, and the Creeds come up just short. Because I think Indus has to go over here, right?
Yeah.
Whenever this match happens, whether it be deadline, whether it be
Hmm.
next week, whether it be 4 weeks from now, whenever this match happens, I think that the Indus has to win.
Hmm. That makes sense.
But like I said, that could be fun and interesting because, again, I think as long as you continue to tell a story through it, I don't mind the Creeds getting squashed. Because every now and
Hmm.
then, everybody needs an eye opening moment. And the
Hmm.
best way to do that, I mean, look at Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. Sheamus got beat in 18 seconds on a WrestleMania pre show because, you know, I'm sorry, Sheamus didn't get beat. Bryan got beat in 18 seconds
Hmm.
on that pre show. And it turned out to be the best thing for him. His entire career changed in that one moment. That's
Hmm.
where his career changed. An eye opening moment like that is potentially one of the best things the Creeds could have happen to them. And to be honest, they could use a little bit of an infusion of some kind of substance. Because while Julius Creed is pretty good and he's becoming more substantive, and I like him more and more as the weeks go on, they're still a little bland. They're still just the dudes and the rest. They still remind me of the Steiner brothers, which isn't a bad thing. The Steiners are one of the greatest tag teams WWE's ever had. But that being said, there wasn't a lot to them. And I just want them to have more. Oh, I think that's the
I
first
got
time
it.
I did it tonight. We then go on to the Alba Fire promo where she's firing back at Isla Dawn. And again, this was a good promo. It talks about Isla
Mm-hmm.
Dawn. It puts her on the map. It gives us a direction for Alba Fire. I wouldn't be surprised to see this match on Deadline.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking before the show and on the air about matches they could add to Deadline. This could be a fun match to add to Deadline. It doesn't need
Yeah.
a whole lot more build. You don't need to see Isla Dawn in the ring until the match. Like
Yeah,
we know what
that's
she's
true.
about. We know why she's here. We know they're going to have a
Mm-hmm.
match. Might as well just put it on Deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But no, Alba Fire cuts a great promo. She talks about
Yes,
how
you do.
Isla Dawn, whatever witches and gods that she speaks to, it's not going to matter because Alba Fire is coming for her, and when she's done with her, she's going back for the championship. Setting back to all the way back to the women's thing, going back to that women's Iron Survivor Challenge Summit thing with her back to the championship. Now, granted, I don't think she's sticking around. I think Isla Dawn is Fire's last NXT feud. I think after that, I think she's headed up to the main roster because I think she's due for a Royal Rumble entry. And then that's going to be her entry onto the main
Mm-hmm.
roster, particularly
Yeah.
on the SmackDown brand. And I could
One
see
thing
her
that I
going.
loved about it too. Oh, sorry.
Yep. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the line that stood out to me. I think she said like I don't know whoever told you like kind of to go after me. They must have it out for you for basically for picking me to go after and kind of situation, which I love to like connection back to that too. But yeah, just like I even before the episode started, I was thinking of what matches we could have for Deadline. Aside for the Iron Survivor and the World Title match, and just like I kept thinking Nikita and Zoe until Zoe got picked for the Iron Survivor. And I didn't think about this one, but we also could have this one as one of those women's matches because I don't think Mandy's defending the title at that line either. So
Nope. This Mandy is not defending that title again until 2023. I mean,
mm-hmm.
maybe the last show of the year they have the winners of the Iron Survivors challenge for the championships to have the year end with a bang because they're not doing any more PLEs, and the next PLE for NXT is probably going to be around Rumble time.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, I don't think Mandy Rose, like I said before, I think Mandy is now the champion until we go into 2023. I think she surpasses 400 days because she doesn't have to defend the title between now and then, except on house shows, and unless they forever champion.
Darn it.
But no, yeah, there's all kinds of. I think in my mind, this is how the deadline card plays out. We have the two Iron Survivors, which are going to give you about 50 minutes. With the first two entrances, let's say it's an hour because you've got two entrances per match for two competitors plus 25-minute matches. So you got an hour there.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the world title match. So what, 15, 20 minutes for that?
Mm-hmm.
Braun typically gets that 10 to 15 minute range. Apollo, they might be able to extend it a little bit. So maybe we get to 10 to 20, but somewhere in there. I think you're setting up for women's tag team title match. So you're going to have Toxic Attraction versus KC Squared. So that's what, another 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes there,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
which will be more than enough for these women to put on a fantastic match. You can have Alba Fire versus Isla Dawn. Another 10, 15, maybe 20-minute match there. It doesn't have to be anything super special. And then what, 5 to 10 minutes to have the men's tag match that we talked about before. And boom, there you go. There's your 2-hour PLE. If you want to make it 2.5 hours, maybe it's a triple threat match for the tag team championships. And you throw Pretty Deadly in there because they'll be back next week.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the Christmas. Oh, God. The real story of Christmas
song.
as written and acted out by Oh, this is going to be terrible. Thank God I'm not
Um,
doing
I
the two
I hope
show.
somebody interrupts it. Whoever does, I'm gonna be cheering for them for one night only if I don't like them.
God, I'm glad I'm not doing next week's show. Um, we get Stacks. I honestly didn't realize who this was trying to get Dijak's
Me
attention. Could
neither.
I thought it was some jabroni that they like picked up off the Level Up set. So sorry, Stacks. I didn't realize who you were. It wasn't until he says the Dawn needs you that I realized it was Stacks. I'm like, oops. I literally thought it was just some jabroni from Level Up that was like coming up to Dijak. Like, do you have a death wish? But Tony D and Stacks talk to Dijak and talk about how Tony D is going for the North American title against Wesley, and he's like, are we on the same page? And Dijak's like, yeah, sure, sort of, kind of. And I'm like, cool. I can't wait to see this triple threat match now because that's going to be a fun threat. We then have Blade versus Von Wagner, and God, this was an ugly match. Not
Yeah,
only
that
was it like
happened.
not only was it more of a fight than a match, but it wasn't even a. I'm not an in-ring talent. I don't know how to do this. I've never been trained to do this. This didn't look like a good, well wrestled match to me from either guy. Blade fell over more than once trying to do basic moves. Like I understand it's not a hugely hard move, but like the power bomb into the sunset flip, like landing on your feet and rolling over the big dude. I get it's hard to do because Von Wagner's a tall dude and it's hard to fall that far down, and but you're a trained professional. You should be able to do this, Malik, and not fall on your bum and then have the guys cover go, ooh, that didn't look so great. No, it didn't look that great. And you can hear Booker snickering in the background. Booker, he's like, um, but I mean, Malik Blade comes out a house of fire. I like that. But the fire is quickly extinguished by Von Wagner, who absolutely destroys him. And then all the Team BBC guys come out to fight off Von Wagner because none of them are going to fight him off on their own except Odyssey Jones, which really just makes Malik Blade and Initial Nofe a vehicle for to get Odyssey Jones back over again, isn't it?
Yeah.
I looked at this and I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, Blade's getting a character and Onofe's kind of getting a character too. And then I looked at it again and I realized, no, nobody's getting a character. They're just using this as a vehicle to get Odyssey Jones over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you have anything to say about this match other than it happened?
It happened. I'm kidding. No, I just feel like, yeah, the match is not good at all. Maybe what they could play it up is like, well, he did break his father's sweater before the match happened, or like, so that was like maybe still like he was an emotional mess going into the match. That was the only way I could say like, oh, I wouldn't be performing like I usually would kind of situation. But aside from that, I would not have any excuse for what just happened. And I'm glad it was as short as it was. Sorry, Malik. Yeah, this was not it for me when I saw this happening. I knew it was going to be a squash, but to see it the way it happened, holy crap. I could have done
Yeah,
without this match tonight.
it just it was fine to have it there, but like again I say, like it's unfair of people who aren't in-ring competitors to sit here and talk about in-ring competitors. It's why I like to have Parrish on the show because I can go, Parrish, talk about this match and, you know, tell me from an in-ring competitor standpoint what went wrong here. That being said, it wasn't entertaining and it looked like people were falling over. It wasn't even due to a lack of chemistry. It just looked like good. The guys just had an off night. It wasn't quite what it needed to be. Before we move on to the official announcements for the Iron Survivors and the final matches that are going to be taking place, we do have the Seed podcast here joining us. And then I hope Tony D'Angelo gets new loyal members. That would be nice to see Tony D'Angelo get a new crew. I between his injuries and having his guys, get fired because they failed tests and did all kinds of stuff. Like it's hurt. Tony D'Angelo has done everything he needs to do to get himself over, and everything just seems to be working with him. That poor guy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but we get to the men's match, and we get, as I said before, Grayson Waller versus Carmelo Hayes versus Joe Gacy versus JD McDonough, with the final entrant being either Von Wagner, Axiom, or Andre Chase. I almost called him Andrade. No, he just had surgery. He's not going to be there.
Yeah.
In the women, we get Roxanne Perez
Mm-hmm.
versus Zoe Stark
Yeah.
versus Cora Jade versus Kiana James from accounting.
One of them is not like the other ones.
Yeah. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. In the match,
Yeah.
to figure out who's the fifth competitor is
Mm-hmm.
Wendy Chu. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Wendy Chu. But Wendy Chu versus Indy Hartwell versus Fallon Henley.
Again, one of this doesn't belong to the others.
This
Sorry,
really could
Wendy.
this really could have just been a one-on-one match, right? Like it could have just been like I understand why the men's match is a triple threat. I think that makes a little bit more sense. I think Andre Chase,
Mm-hmm.
you can make a case to put him in there as a goofball kind of guy to take a bunch of pins in this match to put over the other talent in this match. But you don't need Wendy in this triple threat. I mean, you could have just had Indy Hartwell versus Fallon Henley and called it a day.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could have put in Nikita Lyons. Just say it. You could have put
She
in
got
Nikita
injured,
Lyons.
okay? Let her be. She got injured. Let her recover now.
Mm-hmm. We then find out also that next week we're getting these matches. We're getting the Christmas story thing from the men's tag team champions, Pretty Deadly. I believe they announced another match too, but I don't remember what it was. But I'm pretty sure they announced another match. And then we had our main event. Our women's main event, the 6-woman tag, where Nikita Lyons comes out with Casey Squared, all from the ring, the entranceway, to not have Nikita get jumped again. And I'm going to go ahead and let you talk about the main event, because as much as I love Nikita Lyons and Mandy Rose, women's wrestling, again, is your thing, and you are far more knowledgeable about it than I am.
I feel like this match, I thought it was gonna end pretty quickly because of the time frame, so I was getting hesitant about it at first, thinking they have 6 minutes, like what are they really gonna do? But I'm glad they had the overrun for this match. I feel like even with how quick it was still pretty well done. I like how we got a little bit of that brawl between all everybody in the ring all at once, and I had even a moment that Casey Square jumped over Toxic Attraction and they went back in the ring. It was Kaden first and the Katana. And I saw Nikita too far back compared to them. And I got a little Shield vibes in there and I got scared. And I went, oh no, she's turning too. Oh, jeez. I was like, well, after they helped you, how could you do that to them? Like, I legit had all my, like, Seth Rollins thoughts what this was happening. As I said, I was watching, like, this when that happened. Um, but I love seeing the double teams from Casey Squared. Really well done. That back and forth that they had, and just Nikita selling everything with the injury too. Just the tags and when she did her spinning kick to Mandy, and Mandy just like ducked and her knee buckled. So the way she sold that as well. In that back and forth later on with like basically she was in a handicap match at the end here with Gigi and JC and Nikita with her knee unfortunately, and they just won the match, which is something I expected because I kept thinking we have Mandy on this side, so Mandy's definitely not taking the pin if anything happens, and we have the tag team champions on the other side. They're definitely not taking the pin in this match. So I was thinking it's either Nikita or one of the other two over here. So that's what I knew this was going to be the vibe when the ending was happening. So Toxic Attraction wins. I figured this is probably the way of saying we can get that match against Casey Squared, probably for Deadline. And this is just the way of planting that match happening. Hopefully they announce it next week because I feel like they need to definitely start announcing matches for this because I feel like they've been slow when it comes to that. Aside from the Iron Survivor and the World title, we basically have nothing right now. But I feel like it was really well done. A lot of storytelling with the girls in this match, and I'm glad it happened the way it happened. I thought it was gonna be canceled because of the way it happened earlier, so I was concerned about that as well. And like the way like the Vaughn Malik match was happening, it was so close to 10 o'clock that I thought that was gonna end, and I kept thinking, this is not how I want to end an NXT episode. Give me something else, please. So I'm glad this match happened. I was pretty happy about it.
To be honest, I thought JD McDonough versus Julius Creed was going to be the main event match, and then we're going to have a
I
nice long
noticed.
segment. Because I literally told him, so I'm like, I'll let you talk about the main event. And at the time, I was talking about Julius versus JD because that was like 10:35, 10:40. I'm like, cool, this match will go another 10 minutes, and then they'll have the 10-minute, 15-minute segment where I
Mhm,
thought they were going to bring out all the Iron Survivor guys and just have like all
mhm,
the guys on one side and all the girls on the other. Nope, nope, not how they
mhm.
were going to do it.
Yep.
No, it was a good match. It was fun. It was interesting. Nikita sells about 30 times better than Fallon Henley because Fallon Henley looked like she was playing in the World Cup. The way she was yelling and screaming about her arm. Like, I legit thought something had happened to Fallon. The way she was yelling and screaming about her arm in her match. And not in a like, oh, I'm concerned about your character way. And oh,
Mhm.
I'm concerned about you that you've just been royally hurt.
Yeah.
Um, but no, the match was good. Nikita does a good job. The match ends, and you have the Toxic Attraction lady standing on the ringway, all talking trash, and you've got the tag team champions in the ring staring down Toxic Attraction, and you got Nikita looking the opposite direction as you have Zoe Stark up in the Eagle's Nest, and Zoe Stark apparently is on my time. Uh, I don't care about Zoe time. I don't want Zoe Stark anywhere near here. The sooner she goes up to the main roster, the better. Maybe she could form a tag team with Io Shirai.
No,
No, no, okay, no tag team with
no, we're
Io
not going
Shirai.
back to
But
that
that was
place.
NXT.
Mhm,
But that was NXT tonight. Again, it wasn't. I didn't enjoy this episode. There were good things on this show, but nothing felt like it mattered because nothing felt like it happened. Because either the pacing was off or there were too many of this segment, that segment, this place, that place. It all felt disjointed. Nothing felt connected, with the exception of a couple of things.
mhm,
Um, but not every show can hit a home run every week. Raw last night was absolutely fantastic. Raw next week
mhm.
might be total god crap again. Like, things happen. Not every wrestling show can be 5 stars every week. Speaking of 5 stars, what is your natural rating of the week for this week's NXT?
I'm gonna give it like a 3.5. I like the matches we had tonight pretty much, but I feel like still there was like the pacing was off, and even with the matches and being how technically they go into the discussion for the Iron Survivor, it felt like they had no importance too because this was old in the conversations. Like even Shawn Michaels looks like he had the outfit when he explained the rules for the Iron Survivor, which was what, 2 weeks ago, I think maybe or 3 at this point. So it's like the
Yeah,
vibes from the
all that
outfit
was from.
reminded me of that one. Yeah, so it made me think that this was filmed the same day. So like you said, it just like those parts of like the stories were not up to date. It just like you can't really do that if you're gonna be discussing something that's current. Um, but yeah, I feel like I like the matches. It just felt like the pacing was off, and something about it just like it didn't feel right. So it wasn't the best thing, but I like the matches that we got tonight, though.
Yeah, like I said, there was just, for me, there was a lot of disjointed stuff.
Hmm.
I didn't connect with a lot of this week's episode for some reason. Maybe that was because I've had a
Hmm.
bad day. Maybe not. I don't know. But just nothing felt like on this show that it connected.
Hmm.
Um, but there's always next week, and Deadline is going to be a banger show. Because, like we talked about how Deadline hasn't announced a lot of matches. There's 4 or 5 matches that they could add to this card that I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. All these matches feel like they've been told enough that they can throw them on a card and I'm ready to go.
Hmm.
Like the Creeds and Indus Share. If that match is on the Deadline card, great. You've done all the storytelling you need to that match. You're ready to go. Isla Dawn versus Alba Fire. They've literally done the segment in the main event women's match from the Iron Woman match, not the Iron Woman match, the last woman standing match. and then 2 promos back to back weeks, and I'm already ready for that match. There needs to
Mm-hmm.
be nothing else other than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then adding the women's tag team title match. For the last 3 weeks, they've told that story, so it makes sense that we're ready to go for that women's tag team title match. Boom, there's 3 cards to make your three match card a 6-match card with all matches that make sense. Yes, you didn't announce them ahead of time, but at least all of those matches feel like they've been told enough that they're not just getting thrown on a card.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good because a lot of times wrestling shows don't tell enough stories and then just throw random matches on a card. I'm looking at you, Velveteen Dream versus Cassius Ohno. Old school NXT fans will remember that match. God, it was a bad match. But anyways, Astrid, where can all the fine people find you? I know you got all kinds of stuff going on.
Nah, no kidding. My Twitter's you see down there. My name Astrid Pizarro. Instagram is Astrid Pizarro 20. Tuesday taking up with Parrish and hopefully Ed maybe. And then Thursdays I do making an impact with Cody. That's on my channel on Thursdays at 10:30 p.m. So we're gonna have basically the fallout at this point after Thanksgiving since we didn't get anything last week. So yeah, we'll start the new month with a new episode of Impact. And then if you go on my YouTube, you can see my past episodes of Astrid Ass and Ladies Wrestling Showcase. So we're going to be having a pretty interesting conversation coming up after a certain website posted an article about women and their makeup yesterday. So yeah, we're going to be talking about that pretty soon. So watch out for that. That's probably the only hint I can give for now. But yeah, and
Cough,
then on the weekends,
cage side. Cage side.
and then on the weekends, I do an NXT review with Women's Wrestling Side. So check it out and check out all the content too, because I do a lot of other writings and stuff. It's not just my NXT thing. So there's a lot of good people doing a lot of great writing. Like one of the people that I really enjoy reading, it's definitely Troy stuff. So I enjoy Troy and his podcast. So definitely check him out if you haven't. Where can the people find you, sir?
They can find me in 2 places. They can find me on Twitter at edfries12584, and occasionally they can find you on they can't find you there, but they can find me on my own personal Twitch. No Astrid on my personal Twitch. But
Dang it.
edfries 2002 on, maybe you'll make an appearance. With the new acquisition of a couple things, I'm gonna go ahead and try to start up some gaming streams on my own personal Twitch. I've gotten some stuff together for some Gloomhaven stuff. Got some stuff together for attempting to stream some WWE 2K22 from my PlayStation to my computer. So a couple things potentially coming in regards. Very wrestling realities. I'm trying to figure out which one of my new episodes I'm going to do, as I'm having a hard time finding people wanting to talk about topic I had previously planned. So we're taking a little bit of time for that. You'll probably find that around the Christmas time that I'll probably get that next episode out. And yeah, you can catch me here, there, and everywhere on all of these Olay
Marvel
podcasts
Talk.
here and there. Marvel Talk. Yes, Marvel Talk will return in January. We had our last episode of the year over the weekend where we talked about the Guardians holiday special. That was me and Andre, and our guest this week was Bobby Munson. So you can go ahead and check that out. We have our Year of Marvel planned for 2023, where we're going to be doing Marvel Talk episodes every time something Marvel releases, including weekly episodes of all of the Disney Plus shows. So when Secret Invasion comes out, when Loki comes out, when all of the other fantastic Marvel shows come out, you will have Andre and I and potentially some other guests joining us every week as we talk about all the wonderful things that come from the Disney Plus shows and our reactions to them. So definitely keep that a lookout. But for me, for Astrid, this has been Taking Over, and we will see you next time.